Hello and welcome to the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative podcast. My name is Rim. I'm an artist, a certified life coach and an NLP practitioner, and the creator of the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative retreats. Passionate about celebrating joy and beauty in the everyday, especially when things are falling apart. I'm insatiably curious about human nature, and I look into the world with reverence, awe, and a sense of wonder. Tune in for stories exploring healing through creativity, art, embracing sensitivity, and navigating the subconscious mind. I'll talk about the struggles that highly sensitive and creative people face, and share my experiences, insights, and favorite tools along the way. I'm here to empower you to turn what we often deem to be a curse into your biggest gift. I believe that the more we create together, the more we heal the world. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative podcast. I'm so happy and grateful for you tuning in. Today I want to talk about fear and how moving from fear to curiosity can make a big difference. But first, let me share a little story. So, water has always been a super important element for me in my life. In my astrology, I have a lot of water element. I always feel regenerated when I'm near water. I feel more relaxed. I feel more at peace. I love the color. I love just, sitting by the shores and just watching the waves crashing down, or even when the water is quiet. Whether it's a lake, a river, the ocean, the sea, I just love it. Even water at home, I love. I love looking at the water falling down the faucet. It really makes me feel good. And I grew up, as some of you know, I grew up in most of my childhood in Tunisia, which is a Mediterranean country, quite like surrounded by sea. And I used to live like 30 minutes drive to the beach, so I would go there often. And Tunisia enjoys quite a warm weather, at least half of the year, so I would go a lot to the sea. So that's something that is really important for me. And why am I sharing this? It's because as much as I loved water and I loved being in water, I forgot to mention I also love taking baths. So I love water, but I was quite scared of the depth of water. Like if I would be swimming, I would be scared to go and swim where it's too deep. When it's so deep, then the sea is quite dark. It appears navy blue, and not transparent or not clear anymore. I had a lot of anxiety about that. Also, when there were a lot of seaweed, I would feel quite scared to go there because the seaweed would darken the sea, so I could not really see through it. And so I thought that scuba diving could be something that I could never do because I was so scared. But yet I loved swimming. And a few years ago, when I traveled to Thailand, I decided to try scuba diving. I was scared, but the promise of the beauty, the incredible beauty of the underwater world was stronger than the fear. Just the idea of discovering all these colors and experiencing it myself. I thought, okay, that's something I'm willing to do. And also, I don't want to be the slave of my fear. I don't want to remain small because I'm scared. I love swimming. I want to spend a lot of time by the sea. It's I don't want to be dominated by that fear. And so I took some diving class in Phuket. And of course, I chose a teacher that was patient and who I felt safe with. And yes, initially, like the first few seconds diving in, I was like, ah, so scared. But as soon, because it was really dark, but as soon as we reached the level underwater, like we dove deep enough that we could see what's happening there, like this amazing world, my fear vanished. I was like so in awe of all this beauty and so excited, and I felt like I'm in paradise. I thought like, okay, Earth, like the beauty we can see on Earth is nothing compared to the beauty underwater. It was really amazing, and and for me it was a big lesson, showing me that you see you could transform your fear into curiosity and into excitement, and it was worth it, because yes, you did go through a few moments, a few minutes of anxiety and fear, but at the end you saw this amazing world, this beauty, this variety, animals, the plants, everything. Like, it taught me so much. And I would have regretted to hold myself back to not try diving because of my fear. It's something that opened my mind so much. It's a treasure that I will cherish forever. And it taught me so much. I'm so grateful from that experience. It's like an amazing, wonderful world that always stays with me. Whenever I feel low or sad or feel like, what's the point? All is lost. What is this world? What is this humanity? Like so many of us, highly sensitive people, we can sometimes, like, we can get into these moods where we feel like, what's the point? Because we are so sensitive to the injustice or the darkness, the negative things, but at the same time we're also super sensitive to the good. And I feel so lucky that I have this ability to keep with me all those beautiful memories. It's up to me to choose to see that side, the bright side, the beautiful side, the magic of the world. Yes, there is darkness, but there is also beauty and light. And I would not have seen that world had I been tied down to my fear of the darkness of the sea. So, okay, you might ask me, but Reem, why are you telling us this story? Who cares? And that's just water. That's just like a touristic, or it's just like a hobby. It's not a real life. In life, things are much more difficult. And yes, things are more difficult or more complex, but it's still, the essence is still the same. It's this idea of fear and how we can move from fear to curiosity, and that shift in perspective make a huge difference. Because I used to let myself held back by my fears and my anxiety. Like, even though I've always loved the idea of following my dreams, too often I let myself be held back by a number of anxious thoughts, intense emotions, and overthinking. This thing that we know that we do a lot as highly sensitive people. The fear of failure and disappointment likes to creep up whenever we intend to step outside of our comfort zone and expand in new territories and take more space. So that's something that we will encounter again and again and again. Like in the story I shared about water, I still get sometimes, like when I get into water again, yes, the first few seconds I have this, the darkness of the sea. And then I have to consciously remember, I choose to consciously remember, oh yes, but remember that beauty, that world, that magical world that is under it. So it's we need to reinforce it. That's what I mean. Because fear can seem so real that it can seem as if something really terrible is going to happen and that we may die from it. But like this fear of darkness of the sea, of the depths of the sea, for me, I know it's also tied to the story, the childhood story, The Little Mermaid. I love that book and it really marked me, but it kind of scared me a lot when I was a child. I made a lot of nightmares from that because I kept imagining the mean witch at the bottom of the seas and how she tells the Little Mermaid not to look back. And I could imagine myself being the Little Mermaid running in the dark and having to escape all of this seaweed that looked very threatening, as if they wanted to catch me and take me down like chains. And I think that's where my fear of the sea started. Yeah, of course, my family environment. My mom still has a lot of anxiety about that, so she didn't encourage me as a child to go for it anyway. And that's the case for many of the dreams we want to pursue in life. It's not always the logical thing or the mainstream things that we want to do, and therefore we faced misunderstanding or also like words of caution from our closed ones, like, are you sure you want to do this? That's not safe, that's dangerous, or that's very unlikely, you're very likely to succeed, or that's kind of um, chaotic, or it's not reasonable. It doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't make any sense for them, but it makes sense for us. And what I learned with time is that the truth is actually the only thing that dies of fear is our dreams. So, like, I didn't die from, yes, I was scared of death when I looked at the sea, of the darkness of the sea, but I didn't die. Yes, there are some risks, of course, but it's quite unlikely. And learning to dive was totally possible, something that I could do without too many difficulties. It's what I mean is it's not something that is impossible. That's totally up my alley. And this came to my mind recently because I've been going through a big phase of transition. A lot of things are being changed, and there has been a lot of uprooting and rerouting. And who says transition also says uncertainty, and uncertainty goes with fear for us human beings, and actually for animals. When we are in new settings, we need some time to take our marks and ensure that everything is safe. And even more for highly sensitive people, because it's a bit more difficult for us to adjust to change. It doesn't mean we cannot do it. It means that because we feel everything so intensely and we notice all the subtleties, we can see all the signs for danger, we can see what's potentially going wrong, and our mind can go on overdrive, overthinking, and whew, it can get quite heavy. So all this to say, okay, I'm gonna share some like my experience lately, and but I'm sure you've experienced that at some point. It's this impression that everything is shattering around me and also inside me, like the world as I knew it, has exploded. Also, my identity. This has been my identity. It has been a longer process. Like, I've had this impression and this feeling almost every year for the past 5-6 years. But this like recently, I felt like it's been happening faster and faster. Like, I'm removing some layers faster and faster. Yeah, and also it's like there's as if there was a gigantic broken glass in front of me, and it's breaking down in slow motion. And at the same time, I have this sensation of falling down Alice's rabbit hole. So it's a kind of Alice's in Wonderland meet the Matrix with a little bit of a Lord of the Rings touch to it. So if you felt like that, you probably also felt this instinct of preservation and fear, like just as I was saying before. So it shows up like holding to what we can to keep a feeling of safety and control, which is a way to reassure our nervous system, because our nervous system's job is to keep us safe. And that will lead to resistance. Resistance to do something new, resistance to look for solutions, resistance to choose differently, to adopt new routines, to adopt new point of views, trying to stick to what we know, to what we're used to, even if these things that we were used to were not so beneficial to us, at least not anymore. It can be difficult because of that fear. We're holding on tight. I wish you could see me, because as I was doing this, I like automatically my fist went clenching. That's that's the energy I want to convey. It's like keeping things up, keeping things in, keeping the status quo. And at the same time, there's this impression that time doesn't really exist anymore. That's how I felt. So now we're getting into Interstellar, the movie Interstellar, with this idea of the time notion is actually not what we think it is. I've been feeling like this a lot lately. Like there is time, but not how we were led to believe it did. I can see and feel my past and my future as if they were parallel lives happening at the same time. I'm projecting, I can see the past, I have all the past fears creeping up, coming up to the surface, the things that were and the things that were not, and the things that ended. When I say the things, I mean like the dreams, the situation, but also my thoughts and my beliefs. And then I can see as if there was a door opening at the same time, and I can see it. And that's the door opening to a garden of new possibilities. And I can see how things will be because I set intentions for new things, and it's happening already. Like I can picture it, I can see it as if it's a movie. At the same time, I can see the past also happening as if it's a movie. And that's super scary, but also super exciting. And I feel actually it's a chance. Yeah, there's some days where I feel like, oh no, that's so exhausting. But also, like, now I'm glad I'm recording this episode because as I'm talking, I'm like, oh, actually, that's amazing. I'm living a movie. And I think actually, talking about movie, taking this perspective that like life is a movie. Yeah, it's a cliche, but imagine, just imagine a minute, if your life were a movie and you're the main character, you're the hero, what would you like the hero to do and be? What choices would the hero take? Like, would the change be super easy? Would it be happening overnight and that's it? And there's nothing to say. Like, everything is already perfect, and the hero, the heroine knows how to handle everything, and her emotions are all on check, and she's doing all the right thing at the right time. And would that be an interesting movie? I don't think so. It's much more interesting if the hero, the heroine is going through a whole transformation phase, and there are challenges and things not happening and misunderstandings and something. There is like actually a story, and the heroine, the hero, the heroine eventually manages to overcome all of this and gets to learn more about herself, and then she's starting her new life, or new things are happening, and then there's probably a second installment to the movie. And by the way, did you know that excitement and fear are in fact closely intertwined in the brain? They share the same physiological reaction. It's like the adrenaline that gets released through the body when we are scared. It's the same as when we are excited, which means our body interprets it exactly the same way. For our body, fear and excitement is the same, but our mind interprets it differently. Yes, it's always the mind that is going on its own tangent, doing its own stories, and but actually the bodies see things differently from the mind, that is. And that's such a good news, because it means we have the power, you have the power to choose how you want to experience the situation. You can choose to be held back by your fear and stay in your comfort zone, just like before for a long time I did with the sea and diving and everything. Or you can choose to expand, and you can choose to see the situation as excitement. And that's how I was in my sea experience. I was able to experience this amazing underwater world. And that's empowering and freeing. And I keep saying the same thing, I think. I'm not saying it's easy. Of course, to retrain your brain takes effort and dedication and commitment and repetition. But it doesn't mean it's not possible. You can start with little things. In order to do that, I think first it's really important to hold in your mind, hold the belief that it's possible to feel fear and excitement. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Often we feel like, oh, but if I feel scared, then it means it's not right for me. If I want to do something, I should not feel fear at all. But it's not true. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Could it be both? Can we hold these two emotions together at the same time? And I think we can. Or like already accepting this possibility will make things different. Then accepting fear, because it's a certain time, a certainty. You don't know what's going to happen. Whether you are saying goodbye to a relationship and setting up for a new life on your own, and that's could be scary and uncertain because you haven't been single for a long while, or whether you're deciding to change career, to leave your job, change country, start a creative project, put yourself out there for the first time, be vulnerable. All of these, if you are not used to do that, can be very, very, very scary. So like giving yourself grace, that it's okay. It's the instinct of preservation kicking in, holding to what we can to keep a feeling of safety and control that's reassuring to the nervous system. It's healthy to feel fear. Actually, if you didn't feel fear, that would be quite problematic, I think, because it would mean that you have no notion of danger. So for me, when I have this feeling, because sometimes this feeling of shattering glass and falling down the rabbit hole can be, sometimes the emotion is so intense that my system shut down and I'm like, it gets really intense. And in that case, I found that crying, allowing myself to be super scared was healthy, and cry, because sometimes, the emotion needs to get released, and crying is very liberating. It takes out this energy stuck within. So having a good cry, that's really healthy. And then heeding good old Alice's in Wonderland's advice. Like when she falls down the rabbit hole, she's a little bit, like at the beginning, she's not scared because she's so amazed and curious about the rabbit. She's never seen a rabbit. So she's like taken into the moment, into that rapid, that quick movement. And she falls down the hole. But then when she falls down the hole, at some point she's a little bit scared because it takes forever and she cannot see anything. And she tries to grab the things on her way. So that's how we do. We try to grab. That's how I said, like the resistance. We try to grab at what we can, that to what is familiar to us, and that's okay. Like allowing ourselves to do that without judging ourselves, without making ourselves wrong about this, I think is helpful. I used to beat myself up for that. Like, Reem, why can you not change? Why can you not adapt? Why can you not just go for it? You don't need to stay in the past. No, I don't need to, but I also need to understand that beating myself up is not going to help me change faster. So thinking about Alice, I found is really helpful. She's a little bit scared, but her curiosity to follow the rabbit, to follow something that's extraordinary, that is intriguing, it's stronger than her fear. So she let her curiosity guide her. And by releasing the fear, she actually finds some solution, creative solution. Like this solution, she didn't see them before. When she's stuck in the hallway and she wants to open the door, the little door, and the key is too small, the door is too small. At the beginning, she didn't see there was the little bottle with the drink portion. It's only after she was open to the possibilities, like, okay, what can I do? What's the solution? Then she found the clues. Then she can find the potion, she can drink it and get to the right size for the door, and so on and so on and so on. That's where adopting a curious mindset is really helpful. So how to do that? Well, observing what's around, asking some questions like, what if blah 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 blah, what would happen if blah 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 blah, if I take this path, what would happen? Try to play. If I mix this and that, what would happen? So it's like, adopting an experimentation mindset. Playing, I like to call it like playing the detective or playing the scientist, whichever way feels good to you. But play, curiosity and playful. So a bit like taking the eye of a child really, because the child usually has more ability to see things, to see the potential, to try things without judgment or without expectation, because they are discovering the world. They are not jaded. as many of us adults are after a while. Another thing that I found useful is to remind myself that change is inevitable and therefore uncertainty is inevitable too. Just look at nature. It keeps changing, growing. If you live in a place, like in an area of the world where there are seasons, well, you can see this very easily. Seasons change every year. It's a cycle. But even in tropical and equatorial areas, things do change. Plants grow and grow and grow. And something I like to, well, something that I've experienced a lot in Asia are the storms, the huge storms and rainfall, tropical rainfall. Wow, the first time I experienced a typhoon in China, that was a very incredible experience. And like at first I was excited, like, "Ooh, that's new." Then I got a little bit scared because it was quite intense, something I had never seen. And after I got back to the excitement, and what a chance to experience something like that. And soon enough, the storm calmed down and then it was quiet. And usually, after this chaos, this chaotic storm, there's a lot of like everything seems even more peaceful than usual. And after the chaos, after the storm comes clarity. It's like the storm or the chaos is here to reorder things, to put things back where they should be, to realign stuff. And after that, it's like, when you clean your home, and in order to clean your home, at some point you're gonna have to throw out stuff and sort out stuff, so it's really messy, it's all around, and you're maybe like, oh, it feels heavy, I can't wait to be done with it. But then once you're done, everything is cleaner than before and so much nicer than before, and you're like, you have this feeling of deep satisfaction that you may not have. I'm sure you would not have had it if you had not gone through this messy part. So when you feel fear, it's actually a great opportunity to see yourself more clearly and learn more about yourself. A chance to discard what you don't like and lean in towards what you like. If you adopt a curious mindset, then you could ask questions. It's a good occasion to journal or record voice notes and talk to yourself and see what do I need to let go of, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel satisfied, what no longer make me feel satisfied, what makes me feel frustrated, why, what would I like instead, how would I like to feel instead, what can I envision. And something else that my coach said the other day to me, she said, look for evidence of what previous storm you managed to overcome in the past. And this is really helpful because I personally I have tendency to minimize my achievements or to minimize my courage or minimize my ability to navigate difficult situations and challenges. And I think many people do that, especially empath and sensitive people. We're like, oh, that's normal. Anyone would do the same. Well, some do, but some don't, obviously. And I think it's really important to remind ourselves of that, because the evidence of what we managed to do before, even if it was a different situation, is good for our subconscious mind. It's like a proof, because our subconscious mind, need to be reassured. It's looking for safety. So if you look and you say, okay, I was able to do that, then the system, your nervous system and your subconscious mind can be a little bit more at ease. And it shows as a proof that you can do it again. There's no reason that if you did something tough in the past, you cannot do it again. And in the middle of the storm, when things are chaotic and scary and things are moving fast, well, also a great thing about that is you have much less time to overthink and to procrastinate. You're forced to let go of perfectionism, maybe not entirely, but a little bit more, because there are so many things happening and getting destroyed at a fast pace. Like, imagine if you're facing a real storm or fire. I don't think you'd be procrastinating over what to do, what to bring. You would be like, okay, action, I need to go that, this, that. Like, you would be trusting your instincts. Yeah, if you're not facing a storm or a fire, like literally, but it's more of an emotional storm or emotional fire, try to think about, like, does this really matter? Does that really matter? Is it a matter of life and death? Would I remember about this in 6 months, 1 year, 10 years, on my deathbed? I think thinking about our deathbed does help to put things back into perspective, because it's easier to see the small stuff, like that's not important. In the grand scale of things, it's not important. What would I like to remember from my life? That's what really matters. Okay, I feel like I've been chaotic in this episode, um, with the expression of my thoughts, I mean. So I'm going to recap my process. It's been very useful for me, so I trust it will be useful for you too. So first, I reconnect to my intentions. Why do I even want to do that thing? What's the bigger picture? Then I get aware, like, oh, I'm feeling fear. Where is it located in my body? Then there's the acceptance step. Okay, I'm feeling this emotion. I'm having these doom and gloom thoughts. That's okay, that's part of the human experience. Also, my mind is trying to protect me from danger. So I evaluate, is there a real danger here? No, it's only a perception guided by your past conditioning and past experiences. That's also when I accept again the past choices I made and the lessons I learned from that. Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves over and over again, as long as it hasn't been fully integrated. I'm a fixed sign, I'm a Taurus, and in human design, I'm a generator. Human design is this great energy profiling system. And I'm a generator, and I recently learned that generators and manifesting generators are a bit more stubborn. I relate to that. So being a fixed sign, Taurus, plus a generator, and I'm Taurus cusp area, so there's a lot of stubborn energy within me. That's okay, I accept it, which means I have to forgive myself again and again and again, and also forgive others in my life again and again and again. Showing compassion here is really helpful. Like, I am compassionate and I have a lot of empathy, but sometimes I have this kind of, like when you're wounded, you have this reaction, like, you want to slight others, and I do have this tendency, less and less, thankfully. But also, in that case, showing compassion for this trait, that side of myself, is also important. Showing compassion for this part of me that feels scared, that feels uncomfortable, and who was hurt in the past. Showing love, so loving myself for showing up courageously, for being willing to step out of my comfort zone, even if I screw up at times. Reminding myself the importance to sleep a lot, and not because I should, because it's healthy, because it's reasonable. Okay, yes, because it's healthy. But also because I noticed that when I don't sleep a lot, when I go to bed super late, the day after, my anxiety is much stronger, my mood swings much faster, like my highs and lows are more intense, and it's much more difficult to feel clear. And I have less energy to do the things I wanted to do, and at the end of the day, I'm frustrated with myself. So it's like reframing I should sleep from I should sleep to it's in my highest interest to sleep. Something I also like to do is to listening to hypnosis audios before going to sleep. I'm listening to, I made my own, and I use those that help instill positivity, positive intentions, and confidence. It's like a sort of future rehearsal. I found that also making time for my creativity, to do something artistic, especially artistic. For me, it's been drawing and painting lately. It really helps to channel my fear, this emotion, this strong emotion. And because when I draw, I'm in my body. It helps me to get into my body, to ground. It's like as if my thoughts meander. They are not like I can unattach from it, cut ties from my thoughts. I just let them flow, just the way my hand flow and my drawing lines are flowing. It's like my thoughts are also flowing, but as if like they are mine, but they are not really mine at the same time, and therefore I'm not in my head so much. I'm in the drawing, I'm in the movement, the sound of that makes my pen makes on the paper, in the movement, in the shape that it's taking, that is slowly taking on my page, into this new landscape, this inner world taking shape on my page, on my paper. it helps to make the fear not so real anymore. It's a bit like taking a distance, yeah, taking distance from it. And speaking of human design, it's really interesting because my main, well, in human design, they call it the incarnation cross, but it's like your purpose in this life, which is constituted of four gates, four key things, key points. And the first one for me, so the dominant, is called difficulty at the beginning, ordering, or called the sacred fall by human design reader Christy Inger, which I really appreciate. I really love her work. So what is it? It's this energy, this knowing that the beginning of change is the hardest part, and loving to create innovative ways to overcome obstacles and face them with a light-hearted touch. It's like reordering chaos, playfully reordering chaos. And I thought that's so uncanny. That's my main purpose in life, according to human design. And well, I can say that I've experienced a lot of chaos. And seeing this with this new light is incredibly helpful for me. Like, okay, so it makes sense. Yeah, I love to make sense of things. And I'm like, okay, on the days I forget to be playful and I take things too tragically and too seriously, I love to have this tool to remind me, well, difficulty at the beginning, it's normal, it's in your design, but you have the power within you to look at it from a playful angle. And we all have this power, we all have this possibility. Like, I'm not saying I'm the only one who will go through chaotic times and who can play with that. No, it's all of us. But since it's in my purpose, it means I embody that energy. Maybe like the way I see it is like, okay, it's part of my role of what I do in my life to spread this message or to kind of embody that energy so that I can show myself and show others what it means, and to show that it's possible. And I think that this drawing these lines, flowing with them, letting my hand guide me, it's a way for me to reorder the chaos of my emotions, or chaos of the situation going on around me, or whatever is happening that needs to be processed and transformed. And I would like to leave you with two more insights which were really helpful to me. One is this metaphor. I call it "if you were an eagle" metaphor. I'm gonna take you through that now. So whatever you're doing, take a pause now and take a few deep breaths and imagine you're an eagle and that your current circumstances are on the ground. Now imagine you're soaring high above it. You're flying above your landscape, and the higher you go, the more serene you feel. Observe your situation from there. Notice what you see. Notice how you feel. Notice what you hear. What can you learn from that? Do you think things differently? How has your perspective shifted now? This eagle metaphor always helps me, always brings me back. It's funny, I was gonna say it grounds me. How funny that flying in the air makes me feel grounded, but in a way it does. It's like if I shift my perspective and I take some distance from it, I can see things in totally different angle, and I can, like Alice, she could see the clues step by step as she needed to receive them, not before it was the moment. If I shift my perspective and gain some distance, I can also see the clues. They will come to me. I can trust that they'll come to me when I need to. And I was talking about embodying a little bit earlier, and I want to stress this point because I think it's super important and we tend to forget it. We tend to get into our mind too much, and yes, the mind, it's a beautiful thing, but we are human beings. We are animals first. We have a body, and remember, the body can process fear exactly as excitement, which means that it's really important to honor our body's experience, because knowledge becomes wisdom only once it has been experienced in action through the body. So I need to keep reminding myself that and keep showing up, even if I'm wobbling, and putting my foot in front of the other until I can walk until I can walk confidently in that new version of myself I had dreamed of earlier on. New version of myself, and also new experience, new discoveries, more beauty, more magic. That's it for today, and here's to looking at fear with a kind eye and curiosity, and letting ourselves guided by wonder, so that we can playfully create order from chaos. If this has piqued your interest, I'd love to invite you to join me and a small group of like-minded souls for this very special retreat in beautiful Provence for 5 magical days to reignite your dormant dreams and desires while cultivating new and exciting possibilities. So I bet that during this retreat, the quiet, the exploration of your senses and of your voice, your unique voice, will help you to plant the seeds and to water this dream of yours, this beautiful thing that is within you that would benefit everyone around you. Embark on a regenerative and joyful immersion in the magical beauty of Provence. Soak in its colors, textures, scents, sounds and flavors, and form meaningful connections with people who get you. Particularly beautiful in June, with the various shades of greens of the Garrigue and the azure blue sky, the vibrant ochres of the Provençal Colorado. It's a natural paradise that invites your heart to soar. This amazing retreat will touch on all your senses and all aspects of your being: physical, emotional, mind, creative and soul. You'll walk the ochre canyons, listen to the sounds of wildlife, share laughter, give free rein to your creative expression, and relax into rediscovering lost dreams and new possibilities as you celebrate and uncover the next chapter of your life. You will meet our inner wisdom through mindful and creative practices led by me and other local healers. There will be sketching, drawing, watercolor painting, wildlife, birdsong, reflexology, walks in nature, a cooking workshop, and a herbalist walk. By the end of our 5 nights together, you'll be relaxed, re-inspired, and ready to dive into the next chapter of your life with clarity and newfound confidence in yourself. To register, go to rimcreativenergy.com/retreats. That is rimcreativenergy.com/retreats. I'll put the link in the show notes as well. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if it has inspired you, please share it around you. Also, if you feel called to it, please subscribe to the podcast and leave me a review. It really helps to spread the word out. All your questions are welcome. You can send them to me on Instagram at rim.creativenergy.com or email me via my website rimcreativenergy.com, and don't worry, I'll share in the show notes exactly where to find me. Until next time, sending you loving creative energy.